And so our first question here is from Walt. He says, the US, with its global organizations, and the EU are forcing all nations to decriminalize and celebrate homosexuality. In its new mask, LGBTQ. Is this a clear fulfillment of Revelation 14:8?
So to answer your question, Walt, this is what I would say, because there's a few pieces here that are a little bit. Uh, there's several pieces to your question. I guess the first part you're saying is forcing all nations to decriminalize and celebrate homosexuality. I don't see how homosexuality would ever be considered a crime. It's a person's lifestyle choice, and I think that there's a value in people's freedom to choose. That's, if somebody wants to follow that lifestyle, that's their choice. However, you know, if you want to look at as far as, the Bible's interpretation of homosexuality and that sort of thing, the Bible is going to demonstrate a different lifestyle than that of the LGBTQ. However, does that mean we should call it something criminal? I don't believe so. I believe God is love, and I think we need to treat all people with respect, despite the fact that they may have a lifestyle that's different than our own choosing. But as far as the Revelation 14:8, and I say this, uh, to get to the core of what the Bible is saying, who God is. And I don't want to give a soft answer, but I really want to get to the core of what this is, because again, 1 John 4:8 says that God is love. If we don't know, if we can't love our brother that we have seen, how can we love God that we don't see? And really and truly, when we look at each other, we should all understand that we are all sinners. We all have, our own problems. We all need to get right with God in our own way. So I guess I just want to first note that in my answer. And the second part is, as far as fulfilling Revelation 14:8. Let's go ahead and read that Bible verse there. Revelation chapter 14, verse 8. And this would be considered basically the second angel's message. In Revelation chapter 14, this is basically after, Revelation 13 talks about this beast and this beast power that's forcing a false system of worship. And then in Revelation 14, you see God's people, the 144,000 who are pure, who are godly, who, they don't take the mark of the beast. And there's three messages that go out basically at this time. And there's the first one talking about a return to worshiping the true God. And then in verse 8, this is the second angel's message, which is what you're quoting. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And so I believe what you're saying is, because it's using that term fornication and you're equating it to this community, that it would be a fulfillment of that prophecy. And I would say, I don't believe that the second angel's message is talking about, isn't so much fornication as much as it is talking about a false system of worship. What is Babylon? That's the first thing. What is Babylon? Babylon is a false system of worship that's described in greater detail in other parts of the book of Revelation. And I believe that everything in the book of Revelation is a symbol. And when you look at the word Babylon, it literally means confusion. And it's a system of worship that is confusing. And so here you see, there's different aspects that could play into that. But the thing that's talking about, as far as, what is fallen, this is talking about the time when people are going to cry and say, like, this system of worship, it doesn't work, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And in the Bible, the term wine is equated with doctrine, with a false doctrine. And so this system of worship is giving false doctrine to people, which is causing them to become intoxicated, and the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So basically that she would be filled with all sorts of, sin, basically, and saying it's okay to sin. Now, is there some could we say there's some connection? Possibly, but I wouldn't just throw this on the LGBTQ movement. I would say this is a bigger, more comprehensive system of false worship or false doctrine. And so I think that as far as uh, how to interpret the book of Revelation, it's a difficult book to understand, and I get that. But at the same time, I think when we look in Revelation, it's talking about end time events, as far as a worldwide system of, again, worship. When you look at the previous chapter in Revelation 13, it's talking about the mark of the beast is to, if you don't worship the beast, that's always where it comes down to. And you look in Daniel chapter 3 with the three Hebrew boys who were given this false system, and there was a death decree, there was an image, and it was in the country of Babylon. I believe Daniel is looking forward to the book of Revelation, and when you look at that story, you see it is a system of worship. And so I feel very strongly when it's talking about these things, it's more equating to spiritual things, to a system of false worship, rather than just one community that is propagating a lifestyle that maybe you don't agree with. So I guess that would be the best answer I could give you, but I don't believe it's a fulfillment of Revelation 14:8. I think it's this specific prophecy is looking more towards, again, um, a system of false doctrine in a religious system that's giving a false picture of what worship to God should be, because in essence it's false worship. It's worship of self. It's worship uh, of the dragon, which is in essence Satan. And so we have to be a little bit careful when we interpret these things, that we're not just shutting out a group of people or labeling them in a certain way, when really there's a bigger picture going on. So that would be my best answer. I don't know, Jay, if you have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of these sentiments you're bringing up that are, I think, really important. And that is, and by the way, I feel like I'm hearing a little bit of feedback from somebody. Okay, if you're both muted. So what the problem is here is, and Revelation is telling us that we have a bunch of people who are in a state of confusion. Confusion is the essence of Babylon. Babylon is confusion. The wine of the wrath that makes people go crazy. That's confusion. And we really need to have our hearts out for those who are caught up in the confusion. Confusion about racial relations, confusion about gender, confusion about identification and things like all these things. Like, we should feel bad for these people and how they're being played by the devil. And so really we want to emphasize, like, find a compassion, and we struggle to understand the animosity at times that comes out of Christians towards these people who are, at the end of the day, we could be struggling. They have much higher incidences of mental health problems and things like that than the rest of the population. So again, like, our heart should go out to them. And yeah, it's not the people that are the problem. It let us be a part of the solution of showing that there is a God of healing, a God of love that will be there for them. And again, we're not, promoting sin or things like that, but the essence of sin is selfishness and hate and these sorts of things. Whereas, as Tina mentioned, we serve the God of love, and the essence of the opposite of sin would be love. And that, first and foremost, should be what we're about healing people. So sorry, I rambled a little bit too long here. Let's go on to unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, I think that's a really good summary. Yeah, we love all people, and we have to really demonstrate, I think, that in our lives. And I feel like sometimes we have a problem with where we might hate sin, and we end up hating the sinner, and we are never to hate the sinner. We are to love everybody. We love the sinner, but we do hate the sin. And I think that goes into all aspects of life, where we just, just like an alcoholic, I don't love his alcohol. I hate that it's destroying his life, but I still love that person because I want them to be healthy. And so I think that's true of like anything. And I really feel almost frustrated with a lot of, certain circles of Christianity that want to put, you know, work, deal harshly with people who, who have a different lifestyle, or different, you know, way of being that they don't agree with. I don't think that's the way to approach them or treat them or live in harmony with them, because God says, to live peaceably with all men as much as is possible. And so we really have to make sure we're remembering those foundations of love and respect that God gives us in the Bible. And then, if we want to have a conversation about other things, as people are open to it, then we can talk to them. But it has to be, at the end of the day, their choice, and we have to be, again, respectful of whatever choices other people make.
And hopefully the love that we could provide them and connecting them to the Savior and the source of healing can bring them out of the whatever sinful state they might be in. We're all in sinful states, by the way. And that will accomplish ultimately what you want to achieve, or hopefully you want to achieve, right? Hopefully you're not just out there to accuse and condemn, right? Because that's not what even Jesus came into the world to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to save. And so let us be focused on the saving as well.
Yeah.